India-China dispute on germanium export restrictions. India is currently engaging with China over export restrictions on germanium. Restrictions. China has not banned germanium exports, but has imposed restrictions on germanium exports, making the supply of germanium to reduce. And that reduced supply is causing a lot of uncertainties and intermittency in the projects which are going on in the country. However, China has declared that it is going to ban germanium exports to USA. Not to India, not to other countries, but only to USA. Now, these curbs have expressed India's strategic dependence on China. So, we are dependent on China, and that is why we are expressing, our dissent, or I would say our concern with China, because we are dependent upon China for germanium. Germanium is used in telecom, semiconductors and renewable energy, like solar power panels and all. What is germanium and why it matters? So germanium is a critical mineral, not a rare earth element it is. You should understand this. Atomic number is 32. Appearance grey, white, brittle metalloid it is. Fiber optic cables it is used in. Solar panels it is used in. Infrared optics, semiconductors. Form used, germanium oxide, used in core of preforms for drawing optical fibers. And China produces 60% of the global germanium. India, zero domestic production, fully reliant on imports. We are not going to be Atmanirbhar in this way. Timeline of key events: 2023, China imposed export licensing requirements on germanium and gallium. Export licensing requirement means those entities which are wanting to export these two elements, that is germanium and gallium, have to take a license from the government, and it depends on the government whether government will give them export license or not. And government will also regulate the amount of germanium and gallium which can be exported by those entities. That is to be decided by the government. So China is a capitalist country, but with strong state control, and this is how this strong state control is viewed. November 2024, full export ban of germanium, gallium and antimony to the US announced by China. This is when Trump was doing a lot of tariff and all. December 3, 2024, China justified the ban citing national security, seen as retaliation to US sanctions. January 2025, India raised concerns through its embassy in Beijing. Embassy confirmed germanium. 2024 RTI replied, embassy confirmed germanium was the only element about which Indian industries raised formal grievances. And India began importing germanium via UAE, resulting in increased costs. Now, why is India affected by the Chinese ban? Is on exports to the US. Ban is to the US, here restrictions are there. Now, even though the ban is officially on exports to the US, China has tightened overall control over exports of critical minerals like germanium, gallium and antimony through licensed regimes and strategic restrictions. So this license regimes and strategic restrictions, this is our main concern. These controls have created global supply squeeze, indirectly affecting all countries including India, and if there is a global supply squeeze, there is going to be an increase in the prices of these minerals, because prices depends upon the supply and demand equation. Why did China ban these exports? Official reason: national security concerns given by the Chinese leadership. Real motive: a retaliatory response to Biden administration's sanction on Chinese chip firms and machinery, and President-elect Donald Trump's threat to impose additional 10% tariff on the Chinese imports. Minerals banned by China: gallium, for high-speed semiconductors it is used; germanium, for solar fiber optic semiconductors; antimony, atomic number 51, for bullets, defense tech, etc. These minerals, you can see, are vital for computing, defense and renewable energy, the engines of future economic and strategic power. And past precedent: in 2010, China halted rare earth exports to Japan over a dispute. It is not the first time that China is imposing such export bans on any minerals. Japan responded by funding alternate sources like Lynas Corporation in Australia. So that happened. But what is going to be the impact of these export restrictions by China on India? Fiber optics, germanium oxide essential in preforms, production costs are rising. Semiconductors, germanium vital in chip making, import route via UAE adds cost and time. Solar panels, disruption in sourcing critical minerals, slows green energy goals of the country. And cost pressure, UAE based imports instead of direct Chinese supply, higher import costs, rising the prices of it. India's diplomatic response, so India's embassy in Beijing took up the issue with Chinese ministries. However, no public disclosure of meetings as per ITI response to the Hindu. Only germanium was listed among concerns from Indian industry. No formal action yet on gallium or antimony, which also pose risks. But yes, this restricted supply of germanium is causing a lot of problems, and you saw that what impacts it is creating on India. Now, strategic risks for India. The import dependence is there because India is producing zero of it. It is completely dependent on imports. Single supplier risks. China dominates global supply chain, 60 to 80% for germanium and gallium. Industrial impact. India's electronics, telecom and defense sectors are exposed. Geopolitical exposure. China could weaponize exports amid diplomatic tensions. Weaponize exports means China could say कि भैया पाकिस्तान के प्रति थोड़ा सा you be soft, then only I will give you germanium. It can keep conditions for providing germanium. Or India, you do not develop infrastructure at border areas, those borders which are sharing borders with those borders with China, then only we will supply germanium. These kind of, I would say, conditions can be kept. Geopolitical exposure, China could weaponize it. National security, semiconductors, optical fibers and solar panels are critical to India's future defense, economy and digital infrastructure, all of which are being impacted simply because we are dependent upon China. Now the way forward, diplomatic diversification can happen, leverage partnerships with UAE, Australia, Africa, Latin America. Africa can be crucial over here. Domestic capability, invest in critical minerals exploration and processing. Broaden to include germanium, gallium and antimony in the critical minerals mission. Multilateral forums, push resource security agenda in BRICS, where China is present, SCO, where China is present, and Quad, which is against, or I would say, which can be considered as targeting China. Private sector role, incentivize Indian firms to invest in overseas mineral assets, and for that we have created Kabil. So this is what you need to know about germanium export restrictions.